2003 through 2010 BMW X3 E83 model rear window regulator. I'm Brian Nestor from How to Automotive. I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of changing out the rear window regulator. So I'm changing out the left rear, but it's the same process for both sides. I will link up the parts for both left and right door, so look for those in the description. We're going to get started by removing the rear door panel. We need to remove this wood trim piece here. To do that, I'm going to use a panel removing tool. The tool I like to use is made by VIM tools. They're made out of metal instead of the traditional plastic ones. And I know what you're thinking, they'll probably scratch it up, but because they're rounded edges and stuff, they work really well without digging into anything. So you're just going to put it in the panel here and pop it out like this. And once you got it popped out a little bit, you can switch over to your fingers and finish pulling it off until it's completely removed. Once you get the wood trim here pulled off, go ahead and set this aside. After that, we're going to remove a couple screws. There's a T27 torque screw here and a T27 torque screw right here. I just used a nut driver like this to remove these two screws here. You can use a socket and the extension, it'll fit in there just fine. Once you got those two screws removed, at the end of the armrest here, there's a little plastic cover. We're going to pop this off, and underneath there is going to be another T27 torque screw. So now you can go ahead and back this out. Once you get that removed, what I like to do next is pop out the window switch. So you're going to use a little panel popping tool here and pop the switch up. And once you get it popped up, now you can unplug it. Now I'm going to pop the door panel free, and this is where the metal door panel popping tool comes in handy. The plastic ones like the flex, and they don't work very well for this. So go ahead and pull the door panel outwards and just keep pulling all the way to the top. And once you get it off the top, you're going to lift upwards and outwards at the same time. So you're going to pull all the panels up and then lift it upwards and outwards at the same time. Now we're going to look around the back side and we're going to unplug a few things. We're going to disconnect the cable for the door latch. You just squeeze this little tab at the bottom and then pull upwards like this. So that little tab at the bottom is what holds it in. After that, we're going to unplug the connector for the speakers, and you just follow the wiring harness and loom around. This right here is a little LED light. You're going to pull that off. So you're going to just pull outwards and it'll pop off. So you just pull this LED light straight out like this and it'll come off, and then you just follow the wires down and disconnect the rest of the wires. This down here at the bottom is a light for the door. Also, the wiring harness may be attached to the door panel. You just pull them off with these little clips. You just pull it off like that. Now you can set the door panel aside. Now that we got the door panel off, our next step is going to be to peel this weather barrier back. So you use your fingers and just kind of peel it back and pull it off. And you may have to unplug a few of the electrical connectors and pull it through the weather barrier. So go ahead and pull the weather barrier off and set it aside. Now that I got the weather barrier removed, our next step is to get the glass up to where we can get it detached from the window regulator. So the easiest way to do that is to remove the 3 bolts from the motor. And I'm using a T25 Torx bit and my little impact driver here to remove it. And I'm going to leave the motor plugged in. I'm not going to unplug it. I'm just going to remove the screws, and then I'll pull the motor off the regulator. So you'll just kind of give it a little wiggle like this, and it'll pop off. Now you can just gently let it rest down below, and you can pop off the wire loom holder right here off the regulator. You may require a little panel popping tool to remove that too. Now you should be able to reach your hand down here and get a hold of the glass and slide it up to a more favorable position to work on it. Now I got the glass sliding upwards, and I can reach over the top and pull it upwards. What I'm doing is I'm going to slide it up until this little slot on the window regulator here lines up with this plastic piece here. And if you look inside this hole here, you'll see a little nipple that's catching the glass. It's hooked through a hole in the glass. So to get it off, what we need to do is take a flat blade screwdriver and push the little tab on the inside there. Push it towards the inside of the door, and then the glass will be free. You can pull the glass up and then hold the white plastic piece in place. While you pull the glass upwards, it'll come free from the regulator. So I had just pushed the little tab inwards, and then now you can see here the bottom portion of it just came off the glass, and this is why this is supposed to be attached to the cable on the back side of the regulator, and it broke off. So that's the reason why the window regulator stopped working. And here's a closer look at that little tab that I was pushing on to push it inwards to get it free from the glass. That just pokes through the hole in the glass. So now with the glass free, you want to make sure that it slides up and down in the track freely, and that the weather stripping is not damaged and not causing the root cause of the problem. So If it does, then you have to replace that, but mine's in working shape, so I just slid it all the way up to the top, and I used some packing tape to wrap around the door frame and hold the window in the full upright position. Now I'm going to remove the three 10mm bolts. There's one at the bottom I'm going to remove, and then one in the middle. So you're going to remove that. I will link up the parts for the impact driver and also the door panel tools in the description of the video. Once you get those two removed, there's the third one at the very top. You're going to remove the 10mm nut right here. Once you get all the nuts removed, then you can just push the window regulator inwards and then kind of angle it out of the door frame. The top here, I had to kind of pull the metal frame here towards me and kind of push the regulator inwards to get it to come out. Now I'm going to match up my parts, make sure they are the correct parts. So now I'm going to proceed to install them. So this is the little piece that broke off on the old one right here. This is supposed to be attached to the cable on the back side, as you can see here. Now we're going to feed the regulator into the door frame like this and make sure it's standing up and vertical. And then what I did was I had to pull the frame out a little bit and then slide it inwards on the front side of the glass towards the closest to you, and then slide it up until it poked through the hole at the top. And then I started the nut. Then after that I went ahead and lined up the two remaining studs on the regulator and put the bolts in it, and then went ahead and tightened that down. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the motor back on. So I'm going to just stab it into the gears here and kind of just rotate it until all the holes line up, and then start the 3 bolts. Before you go ahead and mount the motor on, you might want to plug the electrical connector in here where it was held on with the wire loom holder, and then line it up and then start the 3 bolts. Once you got the 3 bolts started, you can just go ahead and run them in until they're snug. They don't have to be super tight, just snug. So now we're going to reattach the glass once you get it bolted back up. So you're going to take the packing tape off and slide the glass down until it lines up with that little the plastic tab at the bottom there. And if that plastic tab doesn't line up in the window in the bottom, you can plug the window switch in and run it up and down until it lines up perfectly in this little slot here. And so once you got the window regulator in the position where the slot is, you're going to slide the glass down until and you'll see the little hooks on the where it hooks into this plastic piece here. So you're going to make sure it's hooked in there on both sides. And I recommend that you support it with one hand, the plastic piece mounted onto the regulator with one hand, and then push the window down until it clicks into place. And you may even have to push the little tab inwards to help line it up. So you'll push it until that little hole in the window lines up with the clip inside here. And when you look through, you'll see it'll look just like this. Now, as a precaution, I like to run the window up and down. So I'll plug the window switch in, turn the ignition switch on. Now I'm going to run the window up and down a few times just to make sure everything works perfectly before I put the door panel back on. Now that I'm satisfied everything is working, I'm going to go ahead and put the weather barrier back on. So I'll pull the wiring harness back through the weather barrier, and then I'll stick the weather barrier back on. The little glue that holds the weather barrier on should still be tacky and be reusable. If not, I recommend 3M weather adhesive. So you go ahead and stick that back on and pull the wiring harness through all the holes. After that, we're going to plug all the electrical connectors in, including the LED light here, the speaker, and the light at the bottom. And then anything that held the wire looms on, we'll plug all that back on. We're going to make sure that our door latch, our lock lever here is pointing upwards. It could fall down and rotate downwards. Now we're going to plug the handle back into the cable back into the handle. So you're going to rotate it in like this at an angle and then just push it until it clicks into place. And then I like to do is reach around the back side here and give this a little pull and then look for the lever and make sure it's working. Now I'm going to route the electrical connector for the window switch here up and through into the hole here and plug the switch back in. I'll tuck it all back together once it's all back together on the door frame. So now I'm going to line up the knob here, line up with this with the top of the door frame, and then push it on until it clips on. Then I'm going to peel the panel back a little bit and look on the back side and look for the clips to make sure that they're lined up. You may have to move it slightly up or slightly down. And once you got them lined up, you just tap the door panel on all the way around. After that, you can take the window switch here and push it back into place. Then we can go ahead and start the 3 screws, mounting screws that held them on, the T27s, and tighten those down. And then put the plug back on here on the back of the handle here. Just push it in until it's fully seated. Then we're going to take the brown molding here, the wood molding, and line it up. And you just basically push it on until it clips back into place. So I will link up all the parts and tools that I use in this video in the description. I'm Brian Essa from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe and click that bell notification. That way you know as soon as a new video is released. Thank you again for watching.